Town Hall in the Wacoit Room, 16 Great Neck Road North, Mashpee, Mass. Everyone is welcome here tonight. We're being broadcast live on Channel 8 and streamed live on the Town of Mashpee website. May we stand, please, and pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Approval of the minutes of the meeting of November 1, 2023. Does anyone have any changes or edits?
Motion to approve them as written.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Passed. Okay, as I said earlier, Rob Hansen will not be present tonight. Okay, we now have time for public comment. Who would like to speak first? Is anyone speaking?
Do you want to
Yes,
start
sir.
with the LCP or?
Just give your name and address.
Colton Atkinson, 112 Algonquin. I wanted to come and bring up a couple of potential items for you guys as you consider your next bylaw changes. So the first one would be like an EV either incentive or requirement, like for charging in homes. Like as people maybe if they upgrade their garage or build a new garage, have a requirement that they add maybe a level 2 charger to their garage as well, or maybe if they're doing like electrical work. I don't really know what the requirement would be, but just maybe something to consider that as we move forward. Charging infrastructure is going to be something the town has to worry about. So if we can get people to be charging their vehicles at their house, that'd probably be a good incentive. The other is probably outside your wheelhouse, but it might be something you could consider for the LCP. I know you guys are kind of reviewing that today, but it would be they were talking about taxes and the residential tax exemption on Monday, and so you could consider it instead of having, because they said they would need to go to the state legislator to get the amount capped. So right now, as it is, if you have a lower valued house, you're going to receive a substantially less tax reduction than the people with the more expensive houses will have. So if you talk like 400,000 versus 10 million, which are both houses that we have in our community, it would be a difference of like $130 versus $3,100. So the people who have the most money are getting the most benefit from the policy as it stands. So we could consider maybe, instead of doing a residential tax exemption, looking at other ways that would be like a flat rate, like maybe covering the minimum charge for the waste or the water district, for the Mashpee Water District. So instead of doing a residential tax exemption, you just baseline cover that water district's fee for the minimum, like $50 every 6 months. Just a couple of things for your consideration.
Pretty good idea.
Thank you.
Thanks, Colton.
Thank you. Lynn?
Do you want us to talk about the LCP
Public
right
comment?
now?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah. Okay.
Lynn Barbie Surf Drive. As most of you know, I've been very interested in the whole LCP process, and I am I'm still very interested in it. So I took the time to go through what was in the packet and make some comments. I've redlined things. I won't go over everything, each little detail. I'm happy to sit down with Evan and explain it or whatever. I think there's some uses of certain verbs which I didn't really understand. So I will raise that as well.
Lynn, if you would, when you're going to go through this, would you just direct us to what number it is?
Well, I started with the housing, and like goal H4, create affordable housing. Is the town going to create the affordable housing, or are we going to promote the creation of affordable housing? You see what I mean? I'm not sure that create is the exact verb. Maybe we want to promote the creation of. So these are details, but it has to do with, I'm hoping people will read this. Will actually take the time to read this. I don't understand policy H1 and exactly how that would work. I do have a couple of places, like at the bottom of that page is H2 is form-based code. I don't know what that means. I mean, I know people talk about form-based code, but if we're going to use that language, we have to be very careful to explain what that is and what it means and why it would be better than what we have now, which is presumably not form-based code. So, because I put down here under the very last H2, define it, form-based code, and ask and explain why. Now, maybe you don't do it right in that spot, but maybe you have an asterisk and you explain it somewhere else. Then on the next page, you know me, I have, on H6, I hope that we would say something like, actively engage and regularly fund the Affordable Housing Trust. There's nothing in here that says that that organization will ever meet, so let's try to encourage the meeting of the Affordable Housing Trust in this process. Sort of H10, I'm curious about what does it mean to develop incentives to encourage developers to build affordable senior housing? You know, I'm not disagreeing with it. I just think that would raise a lot of questions. It's like, well, what does that mean? How does that work? And I don't know how in the LCP we can get that information, you know, really explain it to people. But I think some of these things should be explained more in the somewhere in the document. I like the Affordable Housing Coordinator, who I think should be a member of the Affordable Housing Trust. Wouldn't be in there by definition now, but maybe you could change that. On H13, we have assess ways for the private sector to contribute to. So again, I'm not sure that assessing is what we're talking about. We want to encourage or promote ways for the private sector. Maybe I'm misunderstanding it. So the assessing ways for them to do that is a little bit vague for me, and it doesn't really tell me what our goal would be to encourage and promote, I think. The bottom, is H16 and H17 seem to be a duplicate. I'm not sure why it's in there twice, except they have different, on different columns, they have different things, whatever. Okay, so I'll just move quickly. Economic development. Under ED3, consider increasing the Kids Club childcare program. I think that's a wonderful plan to do. But I think, again, people are going to say, well, how are you going to do that? How does that work? You know, it's very unusual that we actually have a town-run childcare program. And I would love to see it quadrupled if possible. But again, putting something like that in there, a lot of people would say, yeah, how do we do that? So I don't want us to create a document that people come back when they read it, it's like, I don't understand how this is going to work. And maybe there are ways of having different verbs, as I say. The next one, ED4, evaluate use conflicts in fisheries. Again, it's awkward language. I think I understand that it means that there are competing issues within the development of fisheries, but again, evaluate use conflicts is a little bit of awkward language in my view. Okay, and then, well, ED5, promote business which offers living wages for all Mashpee residents. How does the town do that, right? I think it's a good goal, but if we're going to be putting things like that in as a goal, we should be able to explain how the town can actually do that. That we give tax breaks to them, whatever. And maybe there's a way in this document to explain some of this. That's sort of the weakness of the chart, is that there's not a lot of place to explain some of these things. And I'm just going to scoot right on through this. We go down to the economic development, and you also have an ED9, increase
Wait a minute.
access to.
Hold on a minute, where are we? Which number?
I'm going to economic development.
AD9?
Yeah, ED9, increase access to childcare for Mashpee's workforce. Again, does that mean the kids club, or does that mean we create incentives for home-based childcare, which I think we should do? That's a wonderful thing. It's economic and provides the resources for people to go to work, and it creates jobs. But I don't know what in our current zoning bylaws and whatever prevents people from having a home-based childcare. I just raise this as an issue because I know we don't have a lot of home-based childcare, and we should have more because our families need it, and it's a good job. It can be a good job. I guess just above that, ED2, minimize homelessness. Again, the word minimize is like, I don't think that's really what we want to say. We want to say address homelessness, create programs to address homelessness. Again, I think it doesn't give us a lot of information. We just say minimize. So I'm going quickly, so. I'm going to sustainability. I'm flipping through the pages. The S6, it says maintain all dams in good condition. I don't know how the town does that. I think it's an important goal to have, but maybe it says, maybe we work with state and local other town resources to maintain all the. Again, this is really important, but I'm not sure that we have the wherewithal to maintain the dams ourselves as a town, and maybe we do. But I know living near one that failed, it became a major. It's not something that the town could easily fix. It required a lot more than that. I really like the S5, the promote responsible consumption and production of products. I'm hoping that means a bottle ban for plastic water bottles, but that's just me. I hope that. Again, I'll go over some of these other details. Jumping over to natural resources, in R4, limit construction in land.
Wait, a goal, what do you do? Which one is it?
Policy.
Natural resources.
Policy
in R4. Limit construction in land under ocean to maintain and restore habitat. I think some words are missing here. This is not a clear sentence to me. Limit construction in land at the side of an ocean, or it says under the ocean, so I'm confused. I just think it could be clarified. The other thing I just thought was sort of interesting is that all of the housing, there's almost nothing under the water column for housing. And it seems to me that that's something that, it comes in under natural resources, the water column, the tap. But it seems to me that probably there should be on some of the other, like under housing, the issue of water, because it's not just building along the water, but access to clean water for wherever people are building, because in this town, there's still a lot of people who are on wells, not town water, I guess by choice. So anyway, I'll flip through this. Again, I think the natural resources, mostly I really liked it. I'll flip over a couple of pages to NR 17, explore the use of a district of critical planning concern. Again, that probably means something to a planner. It doesn't mean anything to me. So maybe I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I just don't know what it means. I just have a big question mark. And again, if we want people to read this and to think about this as the future of our town, we need to be able to explain, if we're using professional terms, be able to explain them. I have a couple of other questions about how we limit gentrification in historically low-income neighborhoods, but I think it's a good goal. So I'm going to flip down through here. Once again, under land use, we have a LU10, develop a form-based code. So I don't know what that means. I did read that one of the things in here is a tree bylaw, Madam Chair.
It's receding in the distant past now.
We're like, this is a wonderful thing. We're like we're doing it already. And they said, there's more form-based code under heritage preservation. There's a typo on, I don't have my page numbers here, but it's the heritage and preservation, the goals.
Which one?
HP6, support and promote museums and the performing arts, not performing arts. He said, I used to make a living as an editor and proofreader, so. I will promise to do that with the rest of this, is like really do some, okay, and then on heritage and preservation, HP6, adopt a demolition delay bylaw. It's got an asterisk, so I guess it will be explained. I didn't get that far in going through these pages. But that's, as I said, I have, other small comments here and there, and I'm happy to sit down with the planner or anybody who wants me to just come up with better verbs if you agree that we could have a better verb. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lynn. Anyone else wish to speak? Okay, I have a letter here from Marge Hecht that she asked me to read as public comment. She couldn't be here this evening. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but the board has a copy of it, and anyone who wants a copy of it can get one. I have some extras if anyone's interested. I'll just read the first several paragraphs. Housing. I understand the use of form-based code in town planning, but from my experience attending the workshops, this was not a concept supported by this community. It certainly should not be first on the list, as it was definitely not a priority, and in fact was opposed. The LCP implementation plan provides an overview of the process for achieving the plan's overall vision. The community vision did not include the form-based code. Many of us sat through numerous charrettes for Mashpee Commons, including the idea of form-based code. This was not useful. Design was not the problem then and isn't the problem now. The point is that the LCP community workshops rejected urbanization. People want to keep the character of Mashpee. They did not want large development projects. Therefore, more charrettes at this stage would be an empty exercise, and procuring a consultant to conduct community charrettes at this point would be a waste of money. If the planning department would find it useful to have a form-based code for future development projects in town, it should draft one and then present it for review. In general, the housing action section proceeds as though the main goals of the community were not recognized by the consultants. That's as far as I'll go because it's quite lengthy, but she comments, as did Lynn, on various goals. And again, if you want to see a copy of it, I have it here for you. Evan, do you have anybody else wants to speak? No. Do you want to address anything now at this on the LCP?
No, I think the board should go through the draft and then
Go through the
I can
draft?
offer any comments in response to any of those comments.
Okay,
You have.
all
Can I,
right,
Madam Chair, can I make a comment?
sure.
So, anyways, just to recap, you know, and the town planner knows this, but we had a visioning workshop,
Right.
and then there's 3 main sections of the regional policy plan, right? Building systems, community systems, and natural systems,
Yes.
right? So we had that big visioning kickoff, and then we had one for each of those 3 sections. And so the town planner has these all in spreadsheets, right? And the consultant and the town planner gave us something in, January 2022, that kind of made a list. It was pre-chart, remember that?
Yes.
And then we met in May and redlined it, right? We redlined them, and basically what it was like, the redlining was like a dump of anything that was kind of left out from those workshops, right? Got put into this redlined packet that we looked at in May, which is now converted to these charts. So basically, if you said something at one of those workshops, it should be in here. Don't you think that's kind of safe to say?
Assuming it was a general consensus of parts, like, if one person said it, it wouldn't make it in there, but if there was general consensus at a workshop, it should be in there.
I think most everything is in here, right? Because when I redlined that January 2022 Word document, I went through all of these charts and made sure those comments of everybody was somehow in this redline May version. So I'm pretty confident they're in here. Now, it's slowly sinking in, right? We have the vision statement. And we have goals, policies, and actions. So every action should be linked to a policy.
Yes.
Every policy should be linked to a goal. And every goal should be linked to our vision statement.
That's right.
Okay. So that prompted me, because somebody said, oh, this March, right? She said, oh, this form-based code is not part of the vision statement. And it triggered me to go, that's right. Everything has to be connected. It's like a web, right? Or
A funnel.
Thank you. A funnel, that's where you got. I was like, what's the funnel thing? Okay. All right, good. All right, I just wanted to get that's our goal. That's like our paradigm that we're working on.
Indeed. If I can, Madam Chair, one thing I want to add is, subsequent to our last review in May with the redlining, you will note, if you scrutinize the chart very carefully and deeply, that there will be some of the red-lined items that are not in there because they were either, they were only removed if there was an obvious redundancy between an existing goal,
Yes.
policy, or action.
Some
So
things were like
if there's a
combined,
question,
right?
I'm sure I'd be able to articulate to you the logic or methodology for deleting it.
Yeah, some things were combined, right?
Correct.
Okay. And I think some of the comments that Lynn have said is because some of the items are like, are policies, but they were put in the action area.
There's
There's still a little bit of things that like, the policies and the actions kind of.
Very hard.
It is. But anyways, we'll go through it,
I do
each
think
one,
li-
but I think there's room, like Lynn said, well, how do you do this? that indicates that there's room for development of additional action steps.
I think that there's a balance that we need to strike, because I think Lynn's comment resonates with me relative to word choice, particularly the use of verbs. So that, because it's very difficult to be incredibly granular with actions. Like for something like open space acquisitions, you look at the land, or the open space chapter, we identify specific parcels in many cases. But in the absence of that, it's often assessing a concept, analyzing the potential for this action. Unless we can be very specific, ultimately, I think it's up to like staff and other boards and committees and commissions to determine what the appropriate pathway is, given the resources we have available and the desire of the town. So I think there is more specificity that can be had in some of the actions Lynn pointed out, certainly with verbs and certain word choices. The primary thing I wanted to present to you tonight without waiting too long was, A, make sure that you saw that the redlined version in May was generally accommodated with a few exceptions, as I've noted, and the structure of the table, understanding that this still needs to be put together in its totality and open to the public and reviewed by you before it really goes to a town meeting. So there is work to be done. I don't want to assert that the draft before you is what we're ready to submit to town meeting. There's some work to be done.
But you gotta bring it to us at this point.
You know,
You know what I mean? Like, there's a point where you just have to bring it to us.
I was really hoping to bring you, as I mentioned to you, a few of you earlier, the entire document, but I don't have it all yet. So I did not
This is
want to
good.
wait any longer.
Yeah, this is good.
Well, I think, may I ask a question on the, what Marge said
Yeah,
about priority?
Sure.
These actions, in fact, I think I may have asked you this question
did.
at one time. The actions are not in any
There's no-
priority, they're just random.
That's
These are
correct.
things we need to consider
That's correct.
doing.
That's right. There's no level of priority assigned to any action. If that's something the board
I
would
mean, we
want
could,
to do, that
but
you
I think we
could,
should
but
get them all there and then maybe talk about
that's ultimately a board
prioritizing.
decision, but they're
Yeah.
not currently structured in any particular order of magnitude or priority.
I think it's better not to have prioritized, because you may think, some people in town say, why are you doing that one and not this one?
I think,
The less confusion it is, the better this plan's gonna work.
I think the one logical way we could consider structuring them is not by order of priority, but or a time frame for implementation, short, mid, and long term. You can see they're a little scattered right now. So I mean, that's
Oh.
one thing we could consider, but I do want to confirm, yes, they're not structured in order of priority.
So there is a little bit of a priority, because under time frame, there are things, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. And you could put, you could, at the end of the day, right, list all the short time frames first, and then the medium ones second, you know what I mean? And then they would kind of self-sort
I think
by
it makes sense to have
priority.
some sort of structure.
But it wouldn't, and like if you're right, because if the opportunity comes for the
For
action
something.
step that's just happens to be the last one on the list, you don't want to cause a barrier to getting that done.
And also for like the environmental policies, I think, yeah, it could be beneficial to have a priority.
Yeah.
Fixing some things first
Okay.
before you start looking at other things.
All right, do you want to start then, and we take a look at this?
I mean, how would you like to go through it?
So I didn't get through all of it, right? I got through the housing
A lot
and
of
the
these-
economic
A lot of these
development.
actions, I mean, I don't know if you can call them aspirational, but they're very general, because we don't even know what acquisition might mean. Exactly, acquisition, how would we acquire something? We might get it by gift.
I think, like, again, I think there is specificity that could be further provided in some of these actions to make them more actions and less goals and objectives, or goals and policies.
More actions and less.
So that's something I'll think about after we leave here tonight. Do you mind if I qualify just the issue, the form-based code
Yeah, would you?
comment?
Let me ask you a
Because Dennis
question.
asked me this question too, I
Oh,
think.
go ahead.
One thing I do want to make sure we recognize is that this is the planning board's plan and the town's plan, and form-based code is simply one tool to effectuate the goals and objectives you've defined in this plan. So it shouldn't make anyone feel as if we're pigeonholing them into one singular regulatory mechanism such as form-based code. Now, it would be my recommendation to pursue it as a potential tool because it's a wonderful tool to have in your tool belt. But if there's, if the way we describe form-based code in the implementation table and/or the rest of the document doesn't also consider other mechanisms to effectuate the same goals and objectives, then maybe that's a mistake. But I don't necessarily think form-based code is contrary to the development patterns that have been prioritized through the discussion, because I think there's a misunderstanding, and there always has been, due to the fact that form-based code was originally proposed in this town by Mashpee Commons, and that did not go well, that form-based code inherently creates an urban environment of a density that is inconsistent with the town's goals and objectives in that manner. Just like conventional zoning, form-based code can work at any density. It depends how you codify it. It's structured very similarly to conventional zoning in that districts are defined and there are varying standards within those districts. So I just wanted to make that particular point clear.
Could I try to simplify this a little bit? Because I always felt that form-based code was a little bit hard to understand. I mean, I know the definition, it regulates the physical form and the character of a new development, but
Sure.
let's say, for example, I always go back to Zachary's.
Yeah.
Let's just say, now that's a blighted, excuse me, it's not a blighted, but it's in bad shape, I think.
Yeah.
That would be a perfect, because there's quite a bit of land back there, that would be a perfect place maybe for form-based code. We could have like overlays of form-based code in certain pockets of areas that's close to infrastructure, to the wastewater, and it's also blighted. Let's call it that. So could you tell me or tell us, what does it look like? What would just give me a word picture of what form-based code over there would look like versus just building something nice and cleaning it up and putting shrubbery and whatnot.
I think I'll try to describe just the fundamental differences between how we currently regulate land use and how form-based code would do it. Right now, under conventional zoning, you have varying zoning districts that allow certain uses in those districts, generally single uses, generally not a mixture of uses. And so it's defined by the use and a set of dimensional criteria that would apply to that particular use in that particular district. And I'd say many critics today of conventional zoning say that creates an inconsistent development pattern, meaning you could get one thing at point A and something completely different at point B, and there's not much cohesion between the public and the private realm, and it generally is dominated by...
What do you mean by that? Because I've heard you say cohesion between the public and private.
Well, I think a perfect example, right, is like you go to, say, Andy's Market. There's generally not a walkable pattern around, like you're going to drive between all of the uses because one building is what it is, and the next one is another. There's no predictability in the outcome of the built environment. You can get any number of things. Mashpee doesn't use what's called floor area ratio. I think floor area ratio is a really interesting way to describe the massive set of differences that can occur from one building to the next in the same zoning district, depending on how you regulate. We use lot coverage, not floor area ratio. But just like conventional zoning, a form-based code would divide the town into variable districts. And instead of prescribing uses that are allowed in those districts, it prescribes building types that are allowed in those districts. And generally, use is not something that is considered as prominently in the code as is conventional zoning. Now, there are certainly prohibited uses you can install into a form-based code, like you would not want to seek heavy industrial uses next to residential uses. So prohibitions are still a part of form-based code. A special permit process can still be a part of form-based code. But the fundamental difference is you're focusing on building types and how those buildings relate to the street, as opposed to uses and an arbitrary set of dimensional criteria. So the goal is that the community defines what is acceptable per district in terms of the building types they'd want to see, and that would effectuate a more predictable pattern of development for both the town and the developer from an investment perspective. That's the goal of form-based code. Now, it does have its shortfalls. I've done a number of trainings on form-based code, and I'll take a look at it in a second, Karen.
Thank you.
The most significant differences or difficulties that I've heard relayed to me from other municipalities who have installed form-based codes is actually not the understanding by the architects and the developers and often the boards, it's the ability for staff to administrate it. And so that's been a challenge in many communities, so it's something we would need to consider. But ultimately, the point I want to ring home is that there are strategies. For example, if we want to prioritize redevelopment over new development in greenfields, for example, and focus on either like our commercial areas as we've identified for redevelopment priorities, it would be, I'd say, it would be short-sighted to not consider form-based code as one of the options to effectuate the goal you've defined in the plan. Now, if we get to that point and it's not acceptable, then we would go with more of a conventional approach. However, either way, if redevelopment is the priority, we'd still need to go through some sort of community engagement process that may be inclusive of charrettes or something like that to define more granularly what we're trying to effectuate. Is it additional height? Is it modifying setbacks? We would still need to go through that process subsequent to adoption of this plan, whether that be a form-based code or more of a conventional mixed zoning approach.
Mary?
So I had somebody very intelligent explain form-based code to me this way, and it finally sunk in. Form-based code regulates the exterior of the building, what it looks like, but not the uses inside.
More or less.
Okay, so it can work out really well in areas that you allow mixed use, right? Because you're not saying your cap on commercial or your cap on residential in that one building, right? You're letting the market at the time decide how much residential and how much commercial you have in that building. But it's gonna meet certain form standards on the outside. So one of the times that Mashpee Commons had a charrette, they had somebody come down from Somerville. He was the planner. I don't know if he's still the planner.
He's the city manager in
He's
Watertown now.
in Watertown. But he did a lot of work on form-based code in Somerville, and Somerville is the densest place we have in Massachusetts, and it had a lot of old building stock. And so people wanted to demolish and rebuild, but the current zoning didn't work.
Another thing about that property, it was all polluted. So
There was a lot of problems.
They were having a hard time.
Yeah.
They worked on something.
So the current zoning didn't work, but they were having these blighted and terrible buildings that had to come down and get redeveloped. So they set a design standard they used through form-based code that allowed these property owners the ability to redevelop. And when I talked to him after that meeting, and I explained what Yarmouth did, which was allowed for redevelopment with height and density as long as it looked good and it had good site design, i.e., trying to have shared parking, get rid of some of those curb cuts on Route 28, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And he said that even though Yarmouth didn't call it form-based code, it was, right, and he said that there was a spectrum of it. None to all. And so you're going to see my comments in this is going to be kind of converting the words form-based code to design and architectural standards. Architectural standards for the building and design standards for the site. That's like the landscaping, the parking, the entranceway, that kind of stuff. And I think because and I think there is use for form-based code in town with respect to infill. But if we start to approach it as design standards and architectural standards, that might be the place to start. I do think there's a really, really big need in town for our non-conforming, our pre-existing non-conforming buildings that are, some of them are turning into, like, small little cottages into McMansions. I think there's a big need to do some design standards for that area that are by right. And that is a good place to kind of start this process off in town. There's, and I know you know this, the Cape Cod Commission is doing their regional housing strategy, and they're working on these design standards. I haven't looked at them,
Yeah.
but I'm hoping that they're so general, we could at least adopt them for now as like step one.
One thing I really liked about the drafts of the design standards Mary's talking about is they are in every way, shape, and form how a form-based code works.
Yeah.
Other than the fact that they're serving more as a design guideline as opposed to the regulatory mechanism. Because that's like what, I think what Mary's talking about is conventional zoning with really solid design guidelines, which is a good middle
That
ground.
sounds good.
But I just want to make clear that the form-based code is a regulatory mechanism. It's often, you'll see proponents of form-based code kind of think about design guidelines as kind of you get the building form is still potentially inconsistent, you adorn it very beautifully. But we can maybe strike that balance, and I would definitely like to provide for the board the commission's materials on this, because it is very similar to how a conventional zoning code works. It's just, again, regulating the building type. And again, at any density you codify for. So a form-based code can work in the most rural setting or the most dense metropolis. It's up to you to codify. And I think that's something that
And this,
we need to
this
address.
document is not saying we're gonna do form-based code throughout Mashpee.
There is an action step for that, but we'll get to that, and I'll comment on it at that time. It's an overhaul of our bylaw
So ultimately-
into form-based code. So, yeah, I don't think we're ready for that. Remember that guy? He was hired by Mashpee Commons.
Russ Preston.
Thank you, Preston, right? And he always talked about an area that he used form-based code. And I kept asking him, where is it, where is it, where is it? And I think he was a little shy about telling me where it was, because it was a cottaging neighborhood up in Maine
They do a lot of work in, I think, Lewiston.
that
Around Lewiston.
was only 2 stories. Remember, we were talking about stories and height. But that, where he wrote the form-based code for, was a little cottagey community that people wanted to demolish their cottages and rebuild by right. So what they did was they did form-based code for that infill. But it wasn't a huge area. It was, you know what I mean? It was like a defined overlay. And I always thought that maybe we should have that somebody from their planning department zoom in or whatever and talk to us about it, because I think our raise and replace problem might go away with that.
Okay, could we move on a little bit here? 'Cause
Thank you, Madam
this
Chair.
night could turn into a long night.
I appreciate the comments.
All right, so, is there anything else we want to go through, or do we want,
I mean, I think it depends how
Should we take
the
it
board
home
wants to
and
do
read
it.
it
Do you
over
want to
again?
consume it, mark it up, and let me know? Or do you want to go line by line? That's up to you.
So I'm on the charter review committee. We each took a section of the charter and concentrated on it. Do you want to split this up? So so for example, I got like Article 4, right? And when we came to Article 4, I led the discussion on Article 4. I mean, do you want to do that? Like, I'm looking at like natural resources, right? Like, I can, like, do you want to do it that way? So we,
To me, it sounds like a very reasonable way to approach this.
that was John Miller's idea, and we've gotten through the charter so what chapters do we have? We have housing?
you do housing,
There are
he does
12 or
natural
13.
resources.
Wait, go ahead.
I believe there are 12.
All right, so I'll take
elements.
housing. What's the second one? Economic development?
Yes. Sustainability,
Because
natural resources,
All right, sustainability, natural resources,
land use, growth management,
land use,
Sustainability,
growth, I think we're past that, growth management,
heritage and preservation,
heritage.
municipal buildings, facilities, services,
I hope I don't get that one.
transportation, circulation, water and coastal resources. Is that it? That's the end of my chart.
All right, so I'll take housing. Dale, you want the natural resources?
Yeah, I probably want to take a look at that one, and I would like to take a look at water and coastal resources and, I mean, heritage too. But I guess if I had to break it,
You're gonna be busy,
yeah,
okay.
if I had. Oh boy, I don't want to just pick one.
I think that we should give sustainability to Evan.
Fair enough.
I'm always like, can you define that again? It's such a huge topic, all right. Because you worked on the mitigation, the hazard mitigation plan. Oh, and the MVP stuff, you did okay, yeah.
Hazard mitigation plan is never ending. It's almost done.
I'll take economic development.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't understand half of it.
when I see transportation,
It's transportation, yeah?
yep, I'll take that.
I don't care what I get, I'll take anyone you give me, I don't care.
Assign one to Mike.
You want to do municipal buildings or land use? I'll take land
There are a
use.
couple of very smart people
Mike,
in the
municipal
audience here.
buildings.
You can have municipal buildings. You can go visit all the municipal
Oh,
buildings.
thank you,
in
that'd be
town.
great.
Are we limited to people on this board taking one of these sections?
No, we just assigned one to Evan, sustainability.
I mean, I would prefer that comment be
By the
worked on
board.
solely by the board at this
At
time.
this time.
There will be an opportunity for comment that you can consider to make amendments.
Okay.
And if you want, I can take you through housing tonight. If you want, but I'm fine with not doing it.
Do you have changes for it?
Yeah? Or do you
Why
want
don't
me?
you submit the changes
Aha.
to us along with what's there
Good idea.
next time?
With like comments? Okay. Can we get this in Word or whatever?
I believe you can.
Okay. Then I can, I like to redline
Damn it.
things.
Can we ask the public if they want to do the survey too, like,
The survey?
this thing, go over, like, if they
Oh,
want.
do they want this?
So that, we'll make, if anyone desires this,
Yeah.
I can provide it, but just a reminder, this document's gonna be open for public comment.
All right.
So
Yeah.
To the people who participated, I'm happy to sit down with them
If
and
you
discuss
want
it.
the
But I'd really
implementation.
like to go through it with you
With
guys.
us, okay.
Okay, yes, I think this is wise. All right, so,
So at our next meeting, you want me to do the housing one?
Yep.
what are we doing? How many are we doing at the next meeting?
We should do, at least, we got through 2 a night at the charter review. And I don't know if anybody can start coming early. This is what we did. Remember, Dennis, we started coming early when we did this. But if that's not an option, that's not an option.
Well, let's talk about the time frame. That we have to, if we
Sure.
want to get this on the May town meeting, it's sometime in February. That's the
I think
D-Day.
it's gonna be a lofty goal, I'm a little disappointed, to be honest.
If we're going
That's
to
gonna
go
be hard.
through this line by line.
I
and-
think, let's see what we get through by January 1st.
Yeah. you're right.
Ultimately, I need 30 days to shop a complete draft to the community and take comment, which would put us, presumably by January 1st, into February 1st, when warrant articles are due for May.
And we won't have time to process the comments.
I mean, so I guess
That'd
the
be very
ultimate,
tough.
I mean, just kind of talking this out loud, it pains me to say it, but ultimately, we'll have to, let's finish this document by July 1st,
Yeah.
so that it's ready for adoption at the October town meeting. I really want to submit it for spring, but if I'm being realistic, it's unlikely.
This one,
Do you think we have to have like, let's see, what do we call it? A legend or definition page of words?
Do bear in mind that this is the one table from an entire document where there's narrative, where there's existing conditions, narrative, the table, and then an appendix. So, yes, the appendix will include definitions, and if there are some we are missing, that's why I wanted to bring you the complete document, because people are forgetting that this is one tiny component, and an important component of an overall document. Like Mary said, that is a funnel communicating with each other. So do bear in mind, like some of these things, some of the comments that we just heard about lack of specificity or definition, it's going to relate to a chapter that is contemplating these issues. So when read in totality, hopefully those issues are mitigated. And if there's opportunity to bolster, we'll know with certainty once we have the completed chapters. I am, again, having chapters starting to come in their complete form. So I can also come back with chapters as they come in to begin review. But I really don't like the piecemeal because these issues arise.
Yeah.
It's very helpful to have the document in a draft form in its totality. But I think we have to work with what we're getting.
Okay, can we move on then? So next time we'll have the housing,
Housing and economic development?
okay, hopefully I can, yes, I've got some.
Or do you want to do housing and sustainability?
It's fine with me.
I feel more comfortable with economic development.
No, I mean, Evan can do
I can
sustainability.
do and give you a little
Well-
bit more time to do yours.
All right, perfect.
Economic development I found was very hard, so thank you for taking.
Well, I kind of have some ideas about that.
All right.
Um,
And then there is the EDIC, you know, but,
Sometimes we may have to have 2 meetings on housing.
oh, yeah, you're right, okay,
Sustainability. Even
All right.
sometimes 3 meetings.
all right.
Once you have the public come in, and they may have some changes that you
Okay.
didn't realize.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on. I have a new schedule here for next year. Would you take a look at it? And can I have a motion to approve the 2024 Planning Board meeting?
I just wanted to point out a couple things for you, if I may, before you take a motion. As we normally do, this draft is considerate of the major holidays, including the High Holy Days for our Jewish friends. And we have a meeting scheduled on July 3rd that we propose canceling, that we could schedule ad hoc if necessary.
Did everybody get a copy of
I have
this
this.
calendar, this colored yes.
I think you have a
Colored
list
calendar.
too.
Oh,
Perfect.
Because I don't know.
So say again what you're canceling,
So it's in October.
okay? Oh, it says it right there.
Yeah, Rosh Hashanah
Cancel.
first meeting, canceled.
Yep.
And then we propose, July 4th, I'm getting lost here.
Oh, I see, I get it.
July 3rd is a Wednesday. We can keep it scheduled, or we can cancel it. We've, in the past, kept it scheduled and canceled if we can. I think in my past 5 years, we've never canceled it because we've needed it. So I just wanted to point out that this schedule is considering.
And what about June 19th?
It's Juneteenth.
That's Juneteenth, that's a federal holiday.
Okay.
Celebrating the end of slavery among the whole nation.
Okay, we don't have Mr. Pesci here, so we can't.
Oh, wait, we need to vote on our schedule. So do you,
Motion to vote.
so
to
do we
approve.
want to keep July 3rd on the calendar for now, or cancel it now?
You probably gotta cancel it now. It's
Yeah.
gonna be around
I will say, if you keep it on now, we'll be meeting on July 3rd.
Okay.
If it's
Cancel it.
canceled, I can work around July 3rd.
Okay.
Let's cancel it.
Okay.
Motion, Mike?
So, go ahead, Mary.
Oh, so I make a motion that we approve the recommended meeting schedule of the planning department where we are canceling July 3rd and not meeting on June 19th or October 2nd.
Second.
Okay.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. That's great.
Okay. Ed Pesci's invoices we cannot discuss tonight. He's
You
not-
can,
Oh, yeah, we
I do need to pay Ed, so.
We need to pay him, so we need to file a motion.
Yes, so
for
this
pay or
is
motion.
work he's performed in pursuit of his duties supporting you, so if you could
Okay.
My
consider his
invoice or
invoices.
in total?
I would do them one at a
I'm
time
gonna
if
do
you
it one at
would.
a time. Oh, you want to do it?
I don't care, I just
Go
was
ahead.
asking if you want to do it all.
Yeah, starting with Aquay Highlands.
I make a motion, we approve the SC Engineering invoice for invoice 2023-2140 for Aquay Highlands for $3,951.52.
The move, second, I second it.
Well, why don't you do them all? Read them all and we'll approve them all, or we will.
No.
Vote at one time, or?
No, you vote, now we vote.
All right.
I don't see any reason why you can't read all the invoices and then make a decision.
I'm open to either way. Which way you want me to go?
Go my way.
All right. I'll make a motion, we approve invoice 2023-2139 from Pesky Engineering in the amount of $2,776.08 for Sherwin-Williams Engineering peer review.
Okay.
Continue on with that motion.
Keep going.
Oh, I thought we were going motion, second, then approve. Okay. Motion, we approve invoice 2023-2142 for Pesky Engineering in the amount of $1,371.14 for the project location Tudor Terrace. And I motion we approve invoice 2023-2143 from Pesky Engineering in the amount of $517.88 for the project location Willow Circle.
Any discussion about any of these invoices?
I miss Charlie.
What's the first price?
Yeah.
What was the very first?
$3,951.
First one was $3,951.52.
I second those.
Any further discussion? Any discussion? No. Vote? All in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed, unanimous. We have no old business, correct?
Correct.
We don't have an engineering report from Ed. I'm going to hand out, let's see, I already did hand out the letter from Mashpee Town Manager's message,
Yep.
November 9th, which deals with the November 28th special election, which some people might not know, but it's certainly getting around that this is happening November 28th from 7 to 8 p.m. to vote to approve a debt exclusion under Proposition 2.5. You vote yes or no, and that's all you have to do, just go in, check yes or check no. And basically what it is, it's a ballot question whether you want to authorize bonds to fund the planning and designing of the wastewater collection, treatment, and other costs and expenses there too. So if you want a copy of this, it's on the town manager's website. Just go on the website, click on town manager, and you'll see this pop right up if you want any more details.
Thank you.
And that was my water quality report.
That is lovely. I love those reports. They're my favorite.
Town planner report. Harbor management,
Harbor Management Planning Committee, I haven't attended a meeting. I don't think they've met in some time. I think they're in like production mode. Because they're coming into the closure of year one of the development of that plan. It's another year to go before submission for state certification. So it's no update right now. I'll look forward to updating you more. Relative to the housing production plan, unfortunately due to quorum issues recently, the Affordable Housing Committee was not able to meet last week or the week prior, I can't recall. But I do want to report that myself and Alexis, along with Alan, had a very productive meeting with the Tribal Housing Commission on a number of issues, but notably housing production plan. We talked a lot about the marketing and tenant selection for LeClaire Village and the local preference policy. So the tribe's actually going to be seeking a legal opinion relative to the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities opinion relative to our inability to do the local preference as we had defined it. And hopefully we'll be able to coordinate together on future projects. It was a really great meeting. I left feeling quite positive. The HPP right now, as it stands, the needs assessment's been done. We've met on goals and strategies. The survey has closed. Barrett will be finalizing a draft, and we've asked the Affordable Housing Committee members, when it's complete, to review it and offer comments, and the planning board will get the same. I've reached out to the town manager's office to see about coordinating a joint meeting sometime in December to begin reviewing the document. As soon as I receive a draft and give it a once over, you'll receive the draft, so you can begin your review and comment period. That, I would imagine, will be forthcoming quite soon. So just be on the lookout for emails from me, and we'll go from there.
And if you do want us to comment on it, send it to us in a form that we can.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? Like, some people, you get a PDF and the consultants like you to put a comment right there in the PDF. Sometimes they like you to type it in Word.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
I
So, yeah.
That would be fine.
And you can change it to Word, too.
I'll get it
You're
as a
so
Word document.
smart. I don't know how to do
Just saying you
that.
can, that's all.
So that would be fine. I'll follow up with you all relative to status once I know a little bit more.
That's great, because we're on a little tight deadline for that.
Well, now with this coming up, now it's making the LCP see much further down the road here.
Right.
Board members, committee reports, Cape Cod Commission.
You want to do that? The housing strategy?
Mary and I met with, along with Wayne Taylor, Cape Cod Commission staff to discuss the regional housing strategy. Ultimately, they wanted to engage with local stakeholders pursuant to some materials, resources they're developing. Notably, they're going through a mapping exercise to help municipalities identify ideal sites for affordable housing. And so we reviewed that in its general form. They did a decent job, and I think it actually wasn't inclusive of everything you've already done.
And listening, it's great.
So
Yeah.
we made a little bit of progress in Opines relative to that work.
And they know our HPP is coming forward.
They
So I'm hoping that they don't issue theirs before we get the HPP into them, but fingers crossed.
Indeed. And then they just shared with us some of the resources they're developing to effectuate some of the strategies that they've been hearing from towns that would be desired, inclusive of some of the design criteria that really mimics a form-based code. Also model bylaws, both in terms of mixed-use production to encourage housing diversity, but also form-based codes if that's the mechanism that communities wish to pursue. Am I missing anything?
I don't know.
It's more or less, that was the update.
Yeah, I got invited because I missed that last stakeholders meeting. And they were kind enough to do another quick round for people that had missed that third stakeholders meeting, so.
Charter Review Committee.
Yep, so we meet, oh gosh, is it November 27th? I forget. Oh, I do.
Okay, I think that
I was like,
Yes.
yeah, it's November 27th. And we had, we're at the same place. We took public comment, we made comment, and now we're going through it. And pinpointing, we're sorting things out as this is going to be an easy change, like the Board of Selectmen to Select Board. And then there's changes that we're going to need more time on. So there was a lot of discussion about the preamble. So if you have any comments on that, you should send them into the Charter Review Committee.
CPC.
The CPC has received 3 applications. They're in your packet. So I don't know if you guys had time to look at them or have any comments.
Heritage Park is number 1.
Yes, so Heritage Park would be the demolition of some older structures and a rebuild there. I did have a question about eligibility that we'll probably talk lots about at our next meeting. But I think we've received some information that tends to the opinion that it's eligible. So that's good. And that's for $74,000. The total cost of the project is $110,000.
Pickerel Cove.
Pickerel Cove is a land acquisition. So the Community Preservation Committee made a working group on that to work, and I think they're going to work with you, right, on kind of meeting. It's a non-quorum working group to kind of meet with the landowners, just to kind of solidify the property owner's desire to sell the land, and also if they have any restrictions on what the town could do with the land. It's definitely earmarked for an open space purchase.
Yes.
But with open space, there's always that question, what kind of public access will be?
Public access?
Yeah, so some people don't want to sell land if there's going to be any type of public access. Some people don't care. So-
It would be nice if the whole thing could come
I see
together.
on the
Oh.
the highly motivated to sell, these are all around, there, I was able to, I wanted a color thing, I just wanted to see where it was, because then you can remember it, you know?
Yeah.
There are 4 lots on Pickerel Cove that face Pickerel Cove Road, they're dry lots. And then there are 4, there's 1 lot, lot 25 is on the water.
Yeah.
That's the medium motivated, and then there's that other lot. Do you know where the zero rear Pickerel Cove lot is?
So it's a isolated freshwater wetland right adjacent to the pond.
Yeah.
I actually was reviewing some of the topography
Where
of
would
the
it
site
be?
today. It's the small parcel, it kind of looks like a U.
Can I
Yeah.
show you?
The O, the 0, yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, I see it right here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Oh, that's a
it-
water lot too.
And just so for the board knows, that my discussions, and as I shared with the CPC last week, the property owners are interested in, at this point, essentially a network of trails, but are hesitant about other recreational uses on the site.
Like
I know-
the development of a beach,
Exactly.
right?
That wetland parcel with the waterfront access is relatively flat, looking at the topography, but accessing it is incredibly steep. So that's just a constraint we'll need to be considerate
Is
of.
that water clean there? Or do you know?
I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know if that's the spot that it all kind of congeals, I don't know.
But either way.
But Michael, you had a comment that if possible, go for all the lots.
That'd be great.
It would be great, and I think there's potential there, as I noted the CPC. But I did connect the subcommittee with the property owner who responded, but we haven't yet set up a time for them to discuss it.
All right, then the next one is from the chair of the Environmental Oversight Committee, $100,000 to do an open space and rec plan, which is important to qualify for state funds to buy open space. So this, if we have all pistons firing right, we'll bring everything all together so that hopefully we can get some help from the state for that other purchase. And then the last one is from Mashpee Natural Resources, and it's for a Shumat Pond nutrient inactivation. So it's an application of alum
All right.
at a Shumat Pond. If you look at it, you know, a Shumat Pond has access by both Falmouth residents and Mashpee residents. So, and it had been, it is polluted by the base. So the base has pledged to carry half the costs.
Half
Yeah, 50%.
of the 1 million cost.
Yep, and we don't know exactly where the thing is gonna land. I think, if I understand this application correctly, it's a request for $675,000,
Yeah.
right?
But the total proposed is $1 million.
Right. I'm like, Ashley, if you doubled this, whatever. So she promised to clarify that a little bit, but she anticipates the base picking up half. It's also a program where you have to, it's a reimbursement. So the town has to pay out the money and then the base would pay half. And it's also an opportunity to approach Falmouth. Falmouth staff is on board, and they're supportive of the town of Falmouth contributing to this project. The whole thing is about, you know, them getting formal approval, which might be a community preservation application to their town meeting.
You said an application of aluminum sulfate, wouldn't there be multiple applications?
It doesn't last forever, so you're gonna have to do it.
Keep doing it?
No, I think that this would last like 15 years.
2 years, yeah.
How many years?
15.
Wow, that's a deal.
And they're thinking that the plume from the base that has phosphorus is at the tail end. Also, there's PFAS coming out, which is the same, it's on top of the, well, it's not on top of, the plume for PFAS is almost the same as the area for the phosphorus plume. So they're gonna start taking water out and treating it for PFAS. And that process will take the phosphorus out as well. So they think this will be the last alum application for the pond. There's been 2 previous ones. I think there's been 2 previous ones that have been very successful. And it's definitely time, because when they came to visit, the Friends of Ashumet Pond came and testified that they're right now, they have a blue-green algae bloom now. It started in September. And it wouldn't stop, even though it was cold. Well, it wasn't that cold, but things are cooling off. But they've never seen it like this before. So we need to do something with the pond.
Okay,
Thank you for listening. Any comments?
yeah, no, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Design review, my friend of mine's favorite subject, Dunkin' Donuts. That's the Dunkin' Donuts over by Dino's around the corner. It was a sign on a sidewall, and we discussed in design review that we'd like a new form done so we would know the area of this building, because we were a bit guesstimating that this was conforming to a sign permit. I don't know, did you go to plan review on that?
No, plan review doesn't review signs, they have no authority, so.
Oh, just that?
Just,
sign.
if it was, yeah, it was just the addition of the signage, so I'm not familiar with what they're proposing. But yes, I mean, the application should be asking for, in the event of a wall sign which can only encompass 10% of the overall area, you need to know what the existing condition of the area is to
Right.
determine if it's compliant or
So
not.
supposedly Mary Ann is gonna rewrite that application.
And ultimately, they would be incumbent on the building commissioner, when the sign permit is issued, to ensure that it conforms with zoning. However, design review should be considered the same.
Yep. Environmental Oversight Committee?
No updates.
No
And when's the
update?
next meeting?
27.
Yeah, same night I have charter review.
27, okay. How about the Historic
busy
District
people.
Commission?
Hey!
Coming up,
Okay,
We will have something coming up. I should also let you know, Earl moved.
yeah.
Earl moved in with his daughter in Falmouth. So I've lost another member of the Historic District Commission. But we'll have an upcoming certificate of non-applicability to review.
I would like
Colton can
to
do it.
take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye. You live, don't